Hi there, this is Tris Volcatore, and today we're going to be looking at Convolution and the new plugin from Spitfire Audio with BT, the Phobos synthesizer, which uses Convolution. So firstly, let's quickly just look at Convolution and how it sort of works. Basically, a sound which is recorded in a space, and it captures the sound of the space or the object, like a speaker that you run the impulse through. And when you capture that with a microphone, you are capturing the tonal qualities of it and the reverberant qualities, if you like, of the room or whatever it is that you're sort of recording. So basically, to put a bit more context to that, here we have a gunshot which was recorded in an anechoic chamber, which means that there's absolutely no reflections in that room. It's the most direct type of recording we can create. So something like this would be commonly used to create an impulse response, which is where you play this impulse, which sounds like this, in a room or through a device or something, and then capture it. So that file is called an impulse response. And so to give you an idea, if I just load up a plugin here, which is Space Designer, which is Logic's Convolution Reverb. Here they've got loads of basically impulse responses which are loaded in of different things that they've recorded. So here's a jazz vocal room. The response was 1.4 seconds. And if I play this gunshot sound through this now, you'll actually hear, especially if I take away the dry, you'll hear pretty much what it sounded like almost in the room when they would have recorded this. So there you go. Let's do that again. So yeah, that's kind of how it would have sounded approximately. And yeah, there's other methods to record impulse responses, but that's not really too relevant. It's just the main point is that yeah, you've got all these different kinds of sounds, and the reason this impulse is used is it's a finitely short, a really short sound which captures as much frequencies as possible. So if we look at here, analyzer, yeah, switch that reverb off. So this is the dry sound, and you can see it's not absolutely flat or anything, it's not perfect, but it kind of includes every frequency at the same point in time, so which allows the software then to realize, okay, this is so if it comes out, you know, looking like this after you've recorded it, you can see the shape has changed, and it kind of it captures the tonal change, but also because it's finitely short and it's at one point in time as much as possible, you can measure the decay of the sound and how that changes tonally over time and all that sort of thing. So anyway, that's how convolutions work, and traditionally used for reverbs like this. There we go. But where it gets interesting, and where I've always been interested in convolution, is you can do weird stuff with it, because if you, instead of going into a room to classically record a room impulse response, you could just do anything, like these guys, like they've gone through speakers here, but like you could do anything, and there's some really interesting sounds here. As you can see, it's messing around with the pan there. It's going from left to right. It's got some weird whooshy sound, this glacier one. And if I put that on a piano now, let's just move it over. This is glacier, same thing as you just heard. If I play it on a piano, you can hear how it's messing with the sounds, throwing it around pan-wise. But there's loads of stuff you can do. Drone tones, sphere, let's look at that, whatever that is. If you take the dry out, you can kind of really get get some interesting stuff going on. So yeah, a lot of it is kind of droney stuff. But in here as well are some rhythmic sort of things. Ghost rhythms, I think. These sorts of things. Yeah, so you can see here's the impulse response in that little window, and so it's kind of got a rhythm built into it. So anyway, there's lots you can do with convolution, and it's something I've always been interested in. And then when I saw the other day that they'd released this new synth, which is based around convolution, I thought it was pretty cool. So let's have a look at that. So basically, here we've got 4 different samplers and 3 convolutions. There's a lot to pick from in here. You can filter it by key if you want something more tonal. You can filter it by tempo, or all these different genres, pads, strings, sort of guitar or drums, anything, drones, whatever. Or you can click this random wave, which will just pick anything, something, which is interesting. So let's see what this sounds like. So yeah, it's a pretty cool sound. So that's just the sample basically playing dry, because here you can see here's the dry setting. Take that down, and then you've got wet, which is this where it comes to this convolution stuff. So if we put that on wet, keep the dry out for a minute. Let's stick one of these on. So I'm going to switch on this W one here. Let's see what that sounds like. So that's that sound going through this this convolution sound. And let's see what this one sounds like. Wow, it's loud. Let's turn that down. So yeah, something else. And then here. So yeah, it's kind of pulsing more. And of course on here, you've got like an ADSR you can tweak, which is really awesome and intuitive. So maybe I want to do something like that. So now it's kind of going to the back a bit. You can pitch shift it, which is really interesting. And so yeah, if I switch all 3 of these on now, I've got quite a complex sound. And that's just this one sample, which originally was sounding like this, which is already quite paddy. But then if you add in these, it just gives it difference, a bit more depth and interest. The other thing to mention here is you've got these 1, 2, 3, 4 things. These correspond to these 4 samplers, and basically wherever you put it and you can move it, sort of changes which convolution it goes through, and you can record the automation on that and everything as well. So let's move on to this sound. Let's create random ones. Why won't that work? Oh, it is. It's a slow sound because of this. So I want to add something with like a pulsing. So if I'm going to go to this LFO and make it a sine wave, the rate, who knows, half. Just set that up, and then if I go to mappings here, add one, biasing source, LFOA, that's what I just switched on, target, let's do the low pass filter cutoff. Right, so that's going to automate this, no, that's the high pass, the low pass filter, which is, where is that? It's in here. You can see there, that little interesting. And yeah, so that's something cool you can do. Let's look at this one. Just try and get something more percussive, maybe. Oh, there we go. Already there. Let's make it wet. A bit less wet. Cool. So let's play all of these together, see what happens. It's quite interesting sound already. And as well, a lot of these patches come with mapping mod wheels and things like that, so I don't even know what it's going to do. Looks like it's affecting the volume of the dry up on this first sampler. So you can just mess around with it. Yeah, and that's only using 3 samplers. There's another one here again. What's this now? It's just really flexible. Pretty cool. So let's take that out of wet. Let's just have that dry. Yeah. So now I want less of this airy thing. Take that wet a bit, take it out dry a bit. You can also change it anyway with the mod wheel. Pretty cool. It's almost like a sci-fi didgeridoo. The other cool thing with this that I've found, because there's a lot going on in terms of pitch shifting in random places, like over here on this W convolution and over here on this X one as well. Basically, sometimes you're using sounds you don't realise because they've gone off the audio spectrum because the pitch shift's so low. So as you're playing, well, whatever, an octave below middle C, it's just off the spectrum. And then when you go up an octave, it's actually more bass notes starting to appear. So it's quite interesting. It's quite I see a bit of an organic beast, you know. You can, I've only had it for a day or so I've not really experimented that much, but so far, it's quite interesting because that's at the top end and I'll go right to the bottom end. Got a completely different vibe. Really interesting for sound design stuff, especially soundscapes. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But for now, I think that's a good introduction to it and into Convolution. There's a lot of real possibilities here. And you can obviously, what I'm interested in is doing as well is like adding convolution on convolution. Like you could get some more interesting stuff going on. So let's stick that into a lasers in the sky. Taking the dry away. So that's what we're kind of getting out of this lasers in the sky. Yeah, interesting. So yeah, convolutionness to the max. That's the end of this first little tutorial thing. Please subscribe because that shows me that people do get anything out of this. If that happens, then I might do some more. So yeah, thanks for watching and see you next time.